Hi guys, Omar here with Adorama TV, and today we're taking a look at the Fujifilm X-T30 Mark III. That's right, so nice, it was released twice. Now, like many Fujifilm cameras, the X-T30 is inspired by old film cameras with dials and buttons and a very tactile shooting experience. But I think what makes this camera the most special, believe it or not, is the size. And personally, on a personal note here, I enjoy taking along a small Fujifilm camera like I did to Portugal and just throwing in a bag a couple of tiny Fujifilm lenses and walking around with a very nice, light, small kit. And then I'll see other tourists with their huge, heavy cameras struggling up the hill, and I'll just laugh. Now I know what you're saying, why not just use my phone like I've been doing all this time? Well, the sensor on the typical smartphone is about 3 to 4 times smaller. This just means the sensor has more light gathering capabilities in low light, gets you better photographs without grain. You also get more natural looking, beautiful photographs, beautiful colors, real photographs with a real camera. All right, let's take a closer look at the camera. On the top, we have your on-off switch. We have a shutter dial, which allows you to pick your shutter speed for the camera, or you can set it to A and the camera will then pick a shutter speed for you. Here, if you're in a semi-auto mode, you have a exposure compensation dial, so you can actually make your photo brighter or darker. We have a little customizable function button on the top, and we also have a very fantastic auto mode. And this is when you want the camera to completely take over. I use this the most when I would try to capture video of either a fleeting moment or my kids growing up. The auto switch was an invaluable get it quick setting. Now on the top we have a hot shoe in case you want to put a larger flash on top, but this camera actually has a little switch here. Ooh, for a pop-up flash in case you want that paparazzi look. Now on the left we have a film simulation dial. Fujifilm is very famous for its film simulations, and you get 20 film simulations in this camera. Now the dial lets you cycle through them very quickly, and we saw this on the X-T50, we saw this on the XM5, the brand new XE5, and it's a feature that allows you to not only cycle through the different film simulations, Fujifilm's most popular ones, but you can also dial in your settings, like you want a little bit more color, a little less shadows, and save it to a preset custom setting here, and just on the fly have your favorite film simulation ready to go. Now, if you want the most true to life colors, my favorites are Provia, which is their standard film simulation, or the newer Reala Ace film simulation is really pleasant, great for skin tones. It also tones down the colors a little bit. That one's great. But also Classic Chrome is probably one of the most popular Fujifilm film simulations, and it's on the dial here as well. Now, if you're traveling and there's a beautiful sunset, I like to use Velvia for that, where you can actually get really punchy colors that are just better than reality. Now, by the way, the Fujifilm X-T30 comes in 3 colors. It comes in black, this beautiful silver, and also a charcoal gray color. And you can purchase it just the body alone, like so, and maybe buy a lens, you know, a separate lens. Or you can purchase it with Fujifilm's brand new 13-33. That's a lot of fuzz. Now the lens is pretty compact. You need to turn to pop it, and now it's actually ready to go. On the 13mm end, you can get a lot of architecture in the frame. You can just get the full cityscape in the frame. And then you can zoom into 33 for maybe a portrait or something. So the focal length 13-33 I found to be very useful when walking around New York to, you know, capture street photos and also capture some video. So this 13-33 is a fantastic travel companion with this camera, but what's great is it's an interchangeable lens camera, which means you can put on a smaller lens like this 27mm 2.8 prime, which makes the camera pocketable-ish. You need baggy pants. Or if you need a little more reach, whoa, and you want to capture something a little further away, this is the 55-200, which gives you great zoom. I photographed some butterflies. They didn't even know I was there. On the front, we have a little autofocus switch, which, by the way, the camera also has a new processor which allows you to track subjects like birds, planes, trains, people, if you're into that. But I found that it was very sticky, and I even shot one of these pterodactyl things through these bushes, and the camera continued to track the bird, which was fantastic. So it's nice to see that the newest autofocus system is in this tiny little camera. We also have a touchscreen which allows you to touch your subject to focus. You can actually shoot to focus, which is something I've used before for street photography. I'll actually set the screen to be the shutter, and if I see something, I can just touch the screen. It will then fire the shutter, and the screen will flip up like this much, and also just a little bit this way in case you want to shoot over crowds or something. Now, there is no fully articulating screen on this, but the autofocus has face detection, and if you just stick the camera out and look at it, it will track your face and you can vlog with it. It was also nice to turn on face detection when shooting in the city and doing some street photography where I can just, set the camera looking off to the side. It would find a face and I can fire without even looking at the directions that I'm shooting. Stealthy mode. Now, the camera does have a front dial and a rear dial, and these dials also will second as buttons so that you can actually push them in. We have a joystick, menu button, and display back button there. On the side, we have a microphone jack, but just be aware it's a 2.5mm jack as opposed to your typical 3.5, so you will need to add an adapter if you want to plug in a microphone. But, the microphones on this camera are pretty decent. I recorded some video outside. It was pretty noisy, and it sounded pretty okay. And you should know that if you have your video settings at 6K and you go to the auto switch, your auto will be 6K. Where right now I'm in 4K, and if I go to the auto switch, it will go to 4K. We have a USB-C connection, so you could use your phone charger to charge the battery in this camera, and a micro HDMI out. We have a SD memory card slot on the bottom, and also your battery is on the bottom. And with smaller cameras means smaller batteries, so it'd be great to pick up a couple of extra batteries if you are going on a longer trip. Now, a lot of cameras have image stabilization built in. That means that the camera can actually stabilize the sensor when you're shooting video. This camera does not have that, but some lenses have what's called optical stabilization. So the lens itself can actually stabilize the footage. So the 13-33mm lens has optical stabilization. And so again, I found it as a great companion for travel because it's wide enough and it has optical stabilization. Now, some of my favorite Fujifilm lenses, like this 35mm f2, do not have optical stabilization, so I would either use a tripod or just really lean on something to make sure if I'm capturing video, it's as steady as possible. Now, the camera can stabilize with digital stabilization in case your lens doesn't have stabilization, and this is best if you're taking static shots, video shots of things. You do have a little bit of a digital backup. Just know it will crop in a little bit, so you have to make sure that if you want everything in your scene, you might have to have a lens that's a little wider. Now, speaking of video, the camera does shoot up to 6K 30 in what's called open gate. Open gate means that it actually records the full sensor width and height, which is kind of nice. You actually get more information on the top and the bottom, as opposed to most cameras or a lot of cameras, they crop in what's called 16:9, which gives you a wide, like your wide screen TV. But sometimes the extra footage on top and bottom is welcome, especially when you're shooting cityscapes and architecture. It's really nice to see up and down as opposed to just left and right. The camera can also shoot vertical video without turning the camera. You can actually have a setting in the camera that allows you to shoot vertical, and when you take your SD memory card slot out and put it in your computer, the videos are already vertical. So if you're a vertical content creator and want to create clips that are 15 seconds, 30 seconds, or a minute, you could do it right in camera with the beautiful colors, with the low light capabilities, with the sound of the camera. And so if you want higher quality vertical videos than maybe your phone, this is a pretty good option. Now, comparing this to other cameras, the Fujifilm X-M5, that's a smaller camera that does a lot of things that this does. However, that one doesn't have a viewfinder. This camera does have a viewfinder. For those of you that wear reading glasses, it's always nice to frame up your shot by looking in there. Or if it's bright sunlight, the viewfinder is also welcome. Well, what about the Fujifilm X-T50? Well, the Fujifilm X-T50 is a 40 megapixel sensor, and that also has image stabilization built in. Small, stylish, interchangeable lens camera with a 26 megapixel APS-C sensor, great colors, film simulations, takes great video, and it may just be the perfect camera for you. So check it out at Adorama. See you next time.